This episode is sponsored in parts by our friend Enterprise DB. Enterprise DB has been powering enterprise applications with PostgreSQL for 15 years, and now Enterprise DB has you covered wherever you deploy PostgreSQL, on premises, private cloud, and they just announced a fully managed service on AWS and Azure called Big Animal, all one word. Don't leave managing your database to your cloud vendor because they're too busy launching another half dozen managed databases to focus on any one of them that they didn't build themselves. Instead, work with the experts over at Enterprise DB. They can save you time and money. They can even help you migrate legacy applications, including Oracle, to the cloud. To learn more, try Big Animal for free. Go to biganimal.com/snark and tell them Corey sent you. Hello and welcome to the AWS Morning Brief, also known as the Last Week in AWS podcast, if you ask literally anyone who listens to it. Last week, AWS decided to launch a hiring campaign on Blind that's apparently centered around, and I'm not making this up, the idea of don't read the comments. People who are proven to work here don't know what they're talking about. Believe us instead and come work here. Forget day 2 thinking. This is well into day 3. Now, let's dive in and see what happened last week in the product side of the world. Amazon EKS now supports DNS resolution of the cluster private endpoint in AWS GovCloud regions. In my headcanon, I choose to believe that prior to this release, GovCloud customers were having to rsync an etc host file around to all of their containers. Announcing AWS Cost Allocation Tag API. This is a huge deal to me as a cloud economist. Unfortunately, there's no great way for me to explain why I'm so happy about this without channeling finance nerd who's incredibly giddy about a change to an accounting rule energy in the process. AWS DeepRacer introduces quota management. DeepRacer gets the cost limitation controls that the rest of the services desperately need but do not have. Presumably because DeepRacer competitions strike at the heart of the AWS marketing budget. Reduce read I/O cost of your Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL database with range partitioning on the AWS database blog, and hoo boy, this one has a story behind it. The original version of this article had a typo that labeled I/O operations as cost. As a result, it looked like this hypothetical workload was optimizing a $2 trillion Aurora bill into a $6 trillion Aurora bill. Having made a number of similar errors myself, my heart goes out to the authors, along with an enduring offer to take them to dinner, should we ever be in the same zip code. The updated post is very good and well worth reading. Building games on AWS security, new YouTube video series launch. I prefer this to the customer approach of playing games with AWS security. How service providers can use natural language processing to gain insights from customer tickets with Amazon Comprehend. Wow, says the service provider in a stunning lack of empathy. Customers sure do use an awful lot of profanity when talking to our representatives. I'm sure glad I'm not on the support floor. Let's face it, on-call firefighting at 2 a.m. is stressful. So there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that you probably can't prevent incidents from happening, but the good news is that Incident.io makes incidents less stressful and a lot more valuable. Incident.io is a Slack-native incident management platform that allows you to automate incident processes, focus on fixing the issues, and learn from incident insights to improve site reliability and fix your vulnerabilities. Try Incident.io to recover faster and sleep more. Weekly forecasts can now start on Sunday with Amazon Forecast. This entire thing is absolutely amazing to me. The mindset of not thinking to make this adjustable originally, the sheer triviality of the request for almost every use case, the one finicky customer who must have raised absolute hell about the issue, the sheer blinding frustration they must have smacked into, the obnoxious work no doubt required to make what looks like a tiny change but is certainly a colossal change under the hood. Art. This whole feature enhancement is art. cloud rendering using Pixar Tractor on AWS. Pixar Tractor on AWS is absolutely the shittiest character in Cars 4. Using open data to study the sounds of the ocean and create art. This is the most poetic description I've ever heard for receive your AWS bill, then immediately hurl yourself into the sea out of grief. And that's what happened last week in AWS. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn. Stay out of the sea, but stay salty. I know I do.
This has been a Humble Pod production. Stay humble.